So, today we want to talk with you. Yes, today I want us to take a look at ourselves from the outside and have a serious discussion about a very important topic, the phenomenon of illness that is directly caused by love. How, in fact, the topic of love destroys us from within and how this leads us to illnesses, right? After all, it would seem that what are we always looking for in our lives? On the contrary, love. We want love. We want to be loved because, oh, Richie, don't jump here, buddy. Because we weren't loved enough where there was no connection or a distorted understanding of love. But we also need to understand that we come into this world already in love. We are already. A child is not born without love. But then we end up in a certain system, and for each of us, love means something different for everyone. That is, each of us understands love in our own way. For some, it seems like something unattainable, impossible, for example, right? And when a person has a hard time building relationships, finding a partner of the opposite sex, right? Or even if someone is in a relationship, maybe has a family, maybe has children, they still feel inside that it's impossible to love me. There's something wrong with me. If anyone feels this way, put a plus sign, raise your hand, right? That no. Yes, and we very often encounter this in consultations and training programs. And this shows up in a person. This can happen when we talk about love, and it can also manifest in skin conditions. It can show up as a feeling of loneliness or as problems with sleep, a state where there is this inner tension. And this is the most important trait. That a person tries to be someone is always trying to please, always trying to do something for others, and as a result, they are not living their own life because they feel the need to please. So for example, someone says something unpleasant to you, but you keep quiet about it, and then you end up with a sore throat, or you blame yourself for doing something wrong, and you get a headache. What I mean is that there are certain scenarios inside us that already exist, and psychosomatics are layered on top of them. Because psychosomatics itself is actually very simple and easy to understand. For example, yes, gastrointestinal problems. It's like I can't accept something, I can't digest something. Why can't you accept or digest it? It would seem, right? Well, it happened and that's that. Just let it go. But if, for example, I blame myself thinking it's all my fault that I did something wrong. Why? Because I'm a bad person. So inside me, for example, there's this little scene from childhood. Because in the family where I grew up, where I wanted to be loved, to be appreciated, to feel important, I was given a worldview that maybe people get tired because of me, that my parents' difficulties are my fault, that I'm doing something wrong. And now, essentially, a person lives in this state. And certain stressful situations, stressful triggers, activate this internal state. Isn't that right? So for example, if we take the gastrointestinal tract or say the musculoskeletal system, there are conflicts of self-devaluation, like I can't do something. These are our muscles, these are our bones. It's about feeling incapable, unable to cope with something. It would seem that all of us are unable to cope with something at times. Every one of us can face some insurmountable difficulties or challenges every day, but some people just think, well, I didn't manage. Like, whatever, it's fine, no big deal, I'll handle it. Yeah, I'm doing well, I'm good. But for others, it hits very deeply. For example, I'm a bad mother, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad partner, it's all my fault. And suddenly, you notice that the person, say, has tension in their shoulder blade, right? A woman, for instance, starts to destroy herself. She goes to get massages, gets injections, but the feeling of guilt keeps eating away at her deeper and deeper on the inside. Or, I have to handle everything, I have to manage the whole situation, and then there are herniated discs in the lower back because of constant tension, because the person has taken all the responsibility onto themselves. But you might wonder, why did you take everything on yourself? Why are you carrying it all? Exactly, because there is a distorted understanding of love. What does a distorted understanding of love mean? That love, in fact, is unconditional, that I am loved just because. But if there is a condition for it, for example, I must always be useful, I must help everyone, I must handle everything, then I will end up taking on too much. So you need to ask yourself the question, why are you taking on too much? Not just mechanically taking things on and getting upset that you can't handle it. After all, there are so many people who can't handle it. And the focus of attention is on why you want to handle everything, and also on the fact that I can't manage, I can't cope. Do you agree? Is that the case? Andre, call Andre. Who here is Andre? Hello, Andre. No one has ever called me Andre before. Yes, that's a good idea. And now, let's take a moment to do a little diagnostic assessment together. The purpose of this is so that we can carefully examine and get a much better understanding of what the key scenarios are that we will be dealing with. I've already started analyzing your comments that you wrote for the broadcast. This is a real classic example. First, let's say, is the scenario of the rescuer role. When in childhood, a child develops the feeling that they need to take care of their mom or dad instead of receiving care themselves. In other words, instead of being a child, the hierarchy is disrupted, and we get involved in this constant caretaking. We want to save one of our parents, or sometimes both parents. And this leads to a person living in a constant sense of obligation and always feeling like a rescuer. I need to save, I need to help. What does this lead to? Well, you take responsibility for other people, but how those people behave is up to them alone. You can't change other people's lives, but it upsets you that you can't help this person. Again, you can't help them. Each person's life is only in their own hands. How does this manifest? First, I would probably say, is breast disease. This really happens when the hierarchy is disrupted, when we take responsibility for a partner, for a husband, for a wife, for parents, for close ones, for a sister, for anyone. And this anxiety, meaning I want to feed, I want to calm, this is mastopathy, inflammation of the glands. By the way, if anyone has this, wave your hand, say, yes, Vadym, that's exactly how it is, or say, no, mine is about something else. Yes. So this is the first way a disruption of hierarchy can manifest. You took responsibility for other people. Why? Because you don't believe in them, as if they can't handle things on their own, and this lack of love manifests in this way. The second point is, let's say, heart disease, because our heart is our home, our hearth, and if we lose something precious in our life, lose our family, lose love, lose relationships, lose something important, right? We start having heart problems, issues with the coronary vessels. And in general, those with heart conditions, raise your hand. Who here has heart issues? Tell me, Vadym, am I someone with a heart condition? We really do treat our loved ones with heart, meaning we care deeply. We immediately get involved in other people's problems and we can't solve them, can't cope with them. Well, the root cause here is obvious. We can't solve other people's problems. And we get involved in other people's problems because we lacked love. So once again, we try to help other people in order to boost our own self-worth. That is, I help not because I genuinely want to help. I do have the resources to help, yes. Someone is asking me for help. Do you remember the Karpman triangle? How can you tell if you're not a rescuer? You need to know the answers to these 3 questions. First, someone is asking me for help. I'm able to help, yes. And I have the resources right now to help. If no one is asking you, if you can't help with this, if no one is requesting your help and you don't have the time to help right now, don't do it. Focus on your own business. But if we keep getting involved in things, in these kinds of dramas, unconsciously, again, it's not because I'm just sitting around with nothing to do, like I could watch TV or I could go save someone. No, unfortunately, it's because a person has a distorted perception of love inside. It's not their choice. They go to save others because of an inner trauma. In other words, I feel like I have to help everyone, save everyone, because of this trauma. Guys, about the Telegram channel, I don't know how to help or why it's like this. I'll try to re-enter now. Alright? I'll try to log in. So if Instagram works for you, please put a plus sign right away. So when you write it down, you'll notice that it immediately becomes easier inside. You start to understand, aha, that's why I'm doing this. That's why it's so important sometimes to just stop and ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now really important to me? Why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? Why am I doing this right now? Am I doing this for myself? Or am I doing this for someone else? In the end, what is the final result I want to achieve? Is it so that someone will praise me? So that what will happen? This is a very important question. Do you agree with me? Yeah. How often? We don't ask ourselves this question. That's why sometimes a good, sincere, deep conversation like this can really shed light on many things for us. It can really reveal a lot to us. And this hustle and bustle, when a person says, do you know another way to check yourself? When I ask, wait, do you ever feel like there just isn't enough time in a day? They say, 24 hours is just not enough. If only there were at least 56, then I would get everything done. Who here has ever felt that way? This is exactly what shows that. I restarted Telegram, let me know. Is it better now? So this is exactly what shows that I'm trying to live not only my own life. I'm trying to grasp the ungraspable. To cram in, as they say, you know what I mean? Yes. Thrush in men, I don't know, how can that be? Thrush in men, where this is the first time I'm hearing about it. I'm always waiting to be praised. Yes, I'm always waiting for someone to praise me. That's exactly how it is. Oh, well done, you did this. But this expectation of praise, that's actually a childhood trauma, a lack of love, a distorted perception of love from childhood. And now we're moving on to the second scenario. Thank you for reminding me, because I wanted to discuss these scenarios today. It's the good girl scenario. Good girl, good boy. I need to be good. I need to be a good person. And this is a scenario that truly destroys you from the inside, tears you apart, annihilates you. These are people who drive themselves to serious neurosis. That is, they want to be good, to work at that job because their parents told them to, or they left that husband for the same reason. Such a diligent family. Until one fine day they have a breakdown. They just go off the rails, just have wild breakdowns. And these are people who, today she's so diligent, but on the weekends it's a nightmare what happens to this person, especially if, God forbid, she drinks. Something just snaps. Sound familiar? Why? Because inside disagreement is building up. In other words, I'm living a life I don't actually want to live. But I can't allow myself to live the life I want, because in my distorted worldview there's this flaw that only when I act this way am I good, loved, and accepted. But if you're yourself, no one loves you, no one accepts you. And what does this lead to, right? I don't have the right to be myself. First, it's total tension. It's tension in all the muscles, tension in the head, right? This can mean hormonal surges, changes in blood pressure. So again, it means I'm not living for myself. I'm always trying to please others, and then I have breakdowns. That's why another very obvious trait in a person is that they have bouts of anger. So I'm this kind girl, and then for some reason I get angry and hate everyone. Who here has ever felt like that? These bouts of anger mean that you feel really bad inside with yourself. It means there's no agreement, no understanding of what I want and how I want it. When they slowly start to... Oh, and another thing, it also starts to show up as sabotage. Sometimes a person snaps, starts yelling at others, basically trying to reclaim their freedom. But in reality, no one is actually taking that freedom away. It's all inside, all coming from the past, right? Do you understand what I mean? And what do we see in a person like that? Gallbladder disease, liver disease, and again gastrointestinal tract disorders. Why? Because of non-acceptance, once again suppressed anger. It can also be skin diseases, but in the context of aggression, right? When everything irritates me, everything pisses me off, like I hate all of you, like I wish you would all just go away, right? Breakdowns and overeating, yes, and alcohol and some impulsive actions, impulsive purchases. Basically anything so that a person in essence runs away from themselves, right? Who recognizes themselves here? These kinds of strategies. And yes. I'm either good or I'm angry, right? Breakdowns. So why do breakdowns happen? Because I don't allow myself to live the life I'm living. That is the life I want to live. I don't allow myself to have it. So what kind of test can we come up with here? Now think about what you want in life and imagine yourself in that picture. Who would judge you for it? What will happen if it doesn't come true? A good girl, a good boy. This is a very destructive program, isn't it? You probably can't get rid of it in just 5 minutes. But simply becoming aware of it and gradually moving in that direction, working with it, will truly change your whole life, from psychosomatics to finances, relationships, and life in general. Men can get thrush too, but I didn't know those details, honestly. Yes. Let's move on to the next scenario, the third one. A lack of warmth, right? This happens in childhood when there was a cold mother or an emotionally distant father. It's like the snow queen, remember? The one without love. Ice, icicles instead of love. So, what happens inside? I am not loved for who I am, and this... It might seem like I'm repeating myself a bit, but the context is completely different. I'll explain it a little differently now. So, what is the context here? Just imagine, in your childhood you had a cold father or a cold mother who was always emotionally frozen. The first consequence of this is that you yourself become a frozen person. We unconsciously copy our parents, after all, we live in those conditions, and as a result, here and now, I also become a cold fairy. What's her name? The Snow Queen, help me out, from the fairy tale. What is she called? Do you understand what I mean? And inside, I forbid myself warmth, forbid myself to feel, forbid myself orgasm, forbid myself to enjoy life, to rejoice, to have fun. All of that is frozen. And very often I see this in consultations. When a woman sits in front of me, she's well off, she has a business, she's smart and talented, has a husband and children, but it's as if she's frozen. All her feelings are numb, frozen. Who else has experienced this? Why? Because essentially I am copying my parent, the Snow Queen. That's it, I blanked out. The Snow Queen. Yes, thank you. The Snow Queen. Indeed, the image of the Snow Queen. Who's here? And again, this is not a choice. It's a trauma. It's a trauma. So that's the first point. The second point, all the time this Snow Queen, and secondly, what is our criterion? She wants to melt this coldness with warmth. That is, I always want my mom or dad. They were happy, they smiled, as if, well, it's not exactly rescuing, but I want emotions. So this is a person who is searching for someone who will respond to them with warmth. And in life, this creates a vicious circle. You see what I mean? And there's not enough of this warmth. Again, what reacts? The skin reacts. But in what context does the skin react? Not out of anger anymore. Now the skin reacts in the context of loneliness. I lack warmth, I lack acceptance, I lack love. These are people who may have trouble recognizing emotions and feelings. I don't understand what I'm feeling. I don't understand what emotion I'm experiencing right now. I don't understand my own body. So let's say the first step, besides studying psychosomatics, is that they need to engage their body, to activate their body. This could be some kind of exercise, stretching, basically anything that gets the body involved, even simple walking, so that you can slowly start to feel yourself, so that warmth can begin to thaw. Yes. Another incredibly important point to make here, and it's something we must not forget, is that these are individuals who genuinely need to learn how to forgive themselves. In my practice, I also noticed this. My parents were cold, and I put on this mask, thinking that something was wrong with me, and that's why they were like that. And these are people who often take everything upon themselves, thinking, oh, it's me, there's something wrong with me. But here, it's important to recognize, wait, maybe it was your parents, or the circumstances, or certain conditions in your childhood that turned out that way. There's nothing wrong with you. You're perfectly fine. So, for a person like this, essentially, the homework would be, in addition to some body practices, to look themselves in the eyes in the mirror and say, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm normal. I have the right to feel. I have the right to want. Yes, I'm okay. In order to gradually melt this ice, there may also be a state where the person seems not to be here and now. It's like they're a little bit out in space. Why? Because they're in their trauma, this frozen state, right? Yes, Nadezhda writes, it was hard to thaw. Yes, yes. The next scenario is the prohibition against anger. A prohibition against anger, yes. Don't shout, don't get angry, it's not allowed to be angry, or there's some kind of rule about anger, or something else, and the person seems to forbid themselves from getting angry. But let's be honest, who here has problems with anger? Who has trouble saying no? No, I don't want to do this, or this doesn't work for me right now, or I feel uncomfortable. These are people who, well, don't know how to say no. Why? Because inside, any protest, any attempt to defend their boundaries, to show anger or to assert themselves immediately means, automatically, that they won't be loved, that they won't be accepted. These are the children, I think, who were scolded in childhood. And by the way, that used to be me in the past. So I always wanted to be soft, like to please everyone, to avoid any sharp corners. And of course I had bouts of anger, of rage, yes. And also, why was it like that? Because in my childhood my dad was always scolding and yelling. So I was told, don't be like your dad, like an idiot, so to speak. And I saw it myself too. So every time I felt some anger or some kind of disagreement with something, I would feel guilty. I used to feel guilty, yes. Why did I forbid myself to be myself? So write in the comments if this resonates with you, okay? So I get angry. But if I'm angry right now, then there's a reason for it. Someone stepped on my foot. Someone says something to me that I don't like, for example, right? or I just don't want to do it, or, or I'm just tired, leave me alone, I don't want to deal with your issues right now. Objectively, in most cases in our lives, there is a reason for anger, and anger is a good thing. It's just that we don't understand it. Just imagine, someone is forcing you to do something, you don't want to do it, you feel angry, and at that moment you start blaming yourself. You're not allowed to be angry. What do you mean, not allowed? Well, you're angry. Why? There are reasons for it. And it turns out that a person holds it in, holds it in, holds it in. This anger, it comes out through your skin, through your gallbladder, through other organs. Anger can manifest itself through any organ. And after a while, you have breakdowns. Or it builds up inside you, and you become like armor plated, like you have some kind of shield. You get diagnosed, you're sent for surgery. They tell you that your body can't, you might have some kind of autoimmune process going on. But the real problem is that you forbid yourself to feel. You forbid yourself to feel not because it's your choice, but because someone told you it's wrong. So guys, here's the first thing that's really important today. Everything I feel matters. Anger, fear, resentment, love, disgust, hatred, disappointment, any feelings, any emotions, they matter. They are necessary. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. The most important thing, first of all, is to admit to yourself that everything I feel is important, even if I don't understand right now why I feel this way. Because it's time to stop blocking this vicious cycle. And next is love through victimhood, when I wasn't loved. In other words, again, a lack of love. And now the psyche has developed a strategy where I have no influence over anything in my life, I can't affect anything, and the person falls into the victim role. Once again, this happens unconsciously. What does this mean? The person has no sense of responsibility. These are the people who say, nothing works out for me, I can't do it, that's just how the circumstances are. That's just how things are for me. In other words, my life doesn't depend on me. Yes, if we take the triangle card, for example. So this is the victim position. If anyone here feels like a victim, give me a wave too. And in fact, all of us, yes, remember, if we're talking about the Karpman triangle, we can all fall into the roles of victim, rescuer, aggressor, and so on. Sometimes we dance around on these ships. It's neither good nor bad. The key point is that we need to be aware of this and understand that these scenarios, these roles, are mechanisms our psyche uses to adapt to trauma that we already have. And we shouldn't scold ourselves for it, but rather understand which trauma is controlling us and gradually start to move out of it. Because if you don't know which setting is controlling you, it's hard to get out of it. Let's be honest, it's hard. So if you find yourself in the victim position, it's okay. Yes, right now I'm a victim. What am I lacking? In other words, the strategy of getting love through whining is well doomed to fail. Who actually likes whiners? No one likes them who needs them anyway, right? So here it's better to take responsibility for your own life. Yes, to look for some other scenarios, any mechanisms to get that love. How else can I receive it? What can I do right now specifically? Well, it depends on the context, but awareness already gives you a step forward. So Anechka is writing. Her husband ended up having his gallbladder removed. He never allowed himself to express his feelings, but sometimes he would lose control. Yes, Anya, do you now understand why this happens? So we look at someone and think, my God, he's crazy, losing it, yelling, what a psycho. But when you look deeper, try to really listen to him, you realize that he's at war with himself, that he has problems within himself. But that's why most of our problems are in our own heads. We fight with ourselves, we try to put on some role, to follow some script. When I tell you about these kinds of scenarios, do they make sense to you? Give it a thumbs up. This way you see yourself better, you understand. Now I will continue to answer your questions. We have some time left now. And I want to tell you that tomorrow we will have a very powerful webinar with you. 3 hours of content. Today I was finishing up the presentation, so to speak. What awaits you in this webinar? We will analyze the scenarios of the family, 10 scenarios. Today I only told you 5, but look, we will analyze with you 10 scenarios of family, 10 scenarios of parent-child relationships, and 10 scenarios of partnerships, when your partner triggers you. Accordingly, you will see 30 scenarios. That is, we will have a diagnosis of what words to ask ourselves, what to do about it. It will be a powerful practice to work through. And of course, there will be the most favorable terms for my training program. For those who have already managed to sign up for this event for free, congratulations. We have already run out of spots. The first 2,000 people have registered. Now only paid spots are left. Believe me, this event is worth it. 3 hours of content. Once. Practice. For those who purchase for a fee, you will receive a recording of this event. You can repeat this practice. Plus, you will have a mini book, a methodological guide with a summary of these scenarios. And what should be done? That is, believe me, the information will satisfy you. That is, you will leave as a different person. It's worth it. Yes? 3 scenarios. I want PDF. Yes. Well done. Plus, if you then continue to my training programs, this webinar will also be a gift to you. But I will tell you about this at the event. So I'm slowly preparing for the event. I'm getting ready. Today I finally gave it away. Presentation. There's always a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of finishing touches. But I have to say I really enjoy it myself. I would personally attend such an event. If someone broke down 30 scenarios in detail, I would be thrilled, right? Awesome. There will be a link in the Telegram channel for you to join the event. And right after this broadcast, I'll ask the girls to repost it in the Telegram channel as well, Anya, okay? So there will be recordings, practice, and a PDF. Alright, that's it. Let's take 10 minutes. I'm completely at your disposal and ready to answer your questions. So, Andre wrote a question. I saw your question. You can copy paste it, repeat it, and I'll answer, okay? Because I read a lot of questions. Maybe I forgot a bit. I didn't really memorize them, you know? So Natasha writes, my husband is very cold towards my son, who is not his biological child. He only ever yells, never praises him. I keep asking myself why I wanted a husband like this, and I can't find an answer. If everything that happens is according to our wishes, then in this case, I just don't see any desire for it. Natasha, there's a lot going on here. Everything's all mixed up. Horses and whoever else, right? Look, we choose our partners. So here, you're comparing your husband's relationship with your child and with you. You can't compare these at all. And he's not even your biological husband. It's all just really unclear here. Let's keep it simple. First of all, we never meet a partner by accident. A partner, in essence, almost always directly reflects the true state of our own inner settings. In other words, they highlight things for us. They show us what we grew up with, what we absorbed from our mothers and fathers, our particular strategies, and they also highlight the shadow sides we have now. What does this mean? It means that our partner is always a form of psychotherapy. It's always about our personal growth, because they trigger our shadow sides that we aren't aware of. Second point, what you're describing now, your husband's situation with your child, most likely highlights some unresolved issue of your own. Some unresolved situation of yours. So when your husband treats the child this way, what do you feel in that moment? What emotions, what feelings, and what underlying pattern comes up? You need to sit down and reflect on this. This is a specific situation from your life, something from the past that remains unresolved. So, Andre writes, 6 years ago, I started experiencing pain all over my body in my muscles. It's a long story. Maybe it was the divorce, or being forced to write a refusal of parental rights to my daughter, or maybe it was because I attended a manual therapy rights seminar. It's unclear. I'm currently undergoing treatment with a kinesiologist. Over the past year, things have definitely improved, but again, everything is cyclical. There's biochemistry involved. Yes, look, Andre, what you're describing is that your body is tense, meaning your muscles. What are they supposed to be for? Movement. For example, I pick up a glass and drink. If I can do this, I feel comfortable, I have inner value, I am able to do it. But if for some reason I can't pick up the glass, if I'm afraid, my body tenses up, I'm scared. Just imagine, for example, the glass contains poison, some kind of toxin. Immediately my body doesn't want to take it, right? I'm being forced to do it, right? Something I don't want to do. Of course, my body will resist from within. So inside you, there's resistance between these two emotions, these two states. That is, maybe I don't want to let it go. Or I blame myself for doing something I didn't want to do. Maybe, that's what I assume. Again, divorce is about unprocessed feelings and emotions. Who's to blame? During divorces, people often throw dirt at each other, so to speak, air their dirty laundry. Well, that's a classic scenario. That's why this period needs to be worked through. It needs to be fully experienced. In my Psychosomatics course, I actually have specific techniques for how to do this. Plus, tomorrow I'm definitely expecting you at the event. We'll have a great practice session on working through feelings and emotions. This is what you need to understand. Now, regarding the chiropractor or manual therapist, it has been proven that constant manual therapy is not beneficial for our bodies. Why? Because in the moment you feel better, your blood vessels and nerves relax. But in the long term, there is constant trauma to the dura mater. And that's why osteopathic techniques are generally softer, gentler techniques. Again, it depends on which school of osteopathy we're talking about. I can't speak for everyone, I don't want to judge. Kinesiology is also great, but everything depends on the specialists. So to say that a manual therapist actually harmed you, I wouldn't think so. That only happens in rare cases when someone really has herniated discs, a terrible, disastrous situation in their spine, and they get cracked. And yes, there are cases where someone ends up needing an ambulance. That can happen, but it's more of an isolated incident. But what is more likely? It's more likely that you're just tense, you have classic psychosomatic symptoms, you're stressed out, and of course, so what good is cracking your back going to do? What will cracking your back actually change? Will you forgive your wife who has been getting on your nerves? Will you stop blaming yourself for doing things you didn't want to do? Well, of course, cracking your back won't help with that. You have to understand that, Andre. So it turns out that this cracking doesn't do anything. On the contrary, it throws your body even more out of balance. And what happens is that, just as you described, this is a textbook case. Very often people come and say, Vadym, I went to a chiropractor and I felt worse afterwards. I'm afraid of chiropractors. They're such villains. And for many years now, I've been feeling bad after seeing one. But the thing is, it's not the manual therapy itself that's the problem. The person was already tense. And the chiropractor just threw things further out of balance, and the psyche fixated on this. After seeing that person, I started feeling bad. But the thing is, you were already feeling bad in general, and now it's become a kind of phobia of that specialist. Do you understand what I'm saying? Put a plus in the chat because this is a very common topic. And why am I saying this? Because you need to work through the stress you had, take responsibility for your life, and move forward. And the fact that you are now working with a kinesiologist is wonderful, it's great. But you also need to incorporate psychosomatics, because kinesiologists have their own method of working with psychosomatics. It's different, let's say, from my method and approach. Here, I teach you to analyze your emotions and feelings and to fully experience them. This is very important. So there are a huge number of issues you need to work on. Do you understand what I'm talking about right now? Look, here's a message from a woman. I just can't get rid of psoriasis on my lips. Doctors make a diagnosis, but ointments don't help. The thing is, my dear, you're not working with the root cause. You're working with the consequence. Any pills, any ointments, yes, they help us get rid of the symptoms. But if we're talking about psychosomatics, for example, what do lips represent? It's about contact. When we talk about psoriasis, yes, it could be a double contact of separation. That is, there is some kind of regret about a person who is no longer there, or about words that I said. And at the same time, it could be some kind of dirty situation that I don't want to come into contact with. And there are these unresolved feelings. How is an ointment going to help you with that? An ointment doesn't help you work through your feelings. There's something in your life that triggers you, right? It's your circumstances, your events, and you end up falling even deeper. The problem is when we don't address the psychosomatic aspect. Take, for example, a wonderful young woman, yes, and she was diagnosed, ointments don't help, and no one tells her that it's connected to her life, to specific stories from her life. They just say, it's stress. Everyone has stress. I have stress. You have stress. Everyone has some kind of stress. But it's not a fact that we get sick from stress. In other words, we don't get sick from stress. We get sick from internal conflict. Yes, stress drains our resources, our energy, but we get sick from a specific conflict. And because no one makes the connection, no one tells you, you start to feel disappointed in yourself, thinking something is wrong with you. Some kind of frustration appears, and what happens then? A loss of security, and then another fear arises, and it becomes a kind of locking conflict. And that's why you can't recover. You need to come and sort it out. Is that clear? So, Katya writes, I have a similar situation with painkillers, injections, and the dentist. Once I had a reaction to an injection, now I think it was a panic attack. Now every time I get that kind of injection, I have the same reaction, and it's been 15 years since then. Yes, that's absolutely right, Katya, absolutely right. The simplest thing you can do is come to my basic module, yes, and work through this together with a curator and with my practice. We work easily with these kinds of conditions. Or, if you have enough courage, you can do this at home. How? You just need to write on a piece of paper the words, what is it? A painkiller injection at the dentist. That is, when you write it down on the paper, you're already kind of charging that information. And you can act out this scene. Imagine that you're going to the dentist and he gives you an injection. Take your husband, dress him in a lab coat, and do some role-playing games like that. Let him take, I don't know, a toy syringe. And so you come in and you're scared. So, look, even though it's just a scene, you'll actually feel scared inside. In other words, you'll start to feel jittery. You understand with your mind that it's just a plastic injection. It can't harm you, but your body still reacts. That's what a trigger is. And actually, theater was the first psychotherapy. Do it like this. And then he pretends to give you the injection. And your body will start to let go. But at the same time, both he and you should say to yourselves, I am safe, I am okay. An injection is safe. Injections help millions of people treat their teeth, have surgeries, and so on. If you play this game a few times, your body will relax. That is, you need to keep doing it until the moment when you remember events related to the injection, or you write down events about the injection on a piece of paper, and it feels easy for you. You just laugh about it. Is that clear? Try to do this. Now Lyubov writes, a cyst in the breast appeared after my father's death. What does this love say? It says that the tragedy happened, there was a shock, she lost her father. But along with my father, I lost a certain state of being. That is, maybe I blame myself for not being able to help my father, for not taking enough care of him. You need to take away this construct. And the cyst indicates that the hierarchy here is disrupted, that I want to feed, I want to help, I want to cope. Maybe there was some kind of division of territory there. That is, I took this responsibility upon myself. I lost some part of myself. When we lose someone close, a loved one, we actually grieve because we feel like we've lost a part of ourselves. This is the topic that needs to be addressed. Lyubov, I'm definitely expecting you at the event tomorrow. Plus, I have a fundamentals module. There we go into detail about grief and work through it. Here is a particularly interesting question that we have received from Victoria, so let's discuss it. The question is about secondary gains from illnesses. When I ask myself what I will have to do if I fully recover from my gastrointestinal issues, I realize that I will have to resolve one situation, but I'm afraid to do it because I'll have to become a bad girl. How do I find the courage? My imagination is running wild. And you think, what exactly would you have to do to become a bad girl? What is it? Write it down, okay? There are several ways to resolve the conflict. Let's go over them together so we're on the same page. Option number 1 is to actually do something in real life. I don't know what being a bad girl means for you. Maybe it's going out and doing something, saying something to someone, telling everyone off, sleeping with someone, or on the contrary, refusing someone, or, I don't know, doing something, taking some action, moving to another country, getting a tattoo. There's this fear, a fear of doing something in real life, and when you do it, you'll feel relieved. Maybe. It's not 100% guaranteed, but the chances are, if you do something, you'll feel relieved. So why be afraid of it? Just remember the times when you already did something. Why would you be afraid of it then? Well, you've already done it. What's there left to be afraid of? Your mind just exhales, right? That's the first option. The second option, you can absolutely do this as a kind of role play, very much like the example I just described, correct? Recreate those conditions and imagine that as if you're going to do it there, right? Or you go straight to practice. So in my course, first, I ask you to do the practices and only then take any actions. So some actions might not even be necessary, but you need to do the practices first. And during the practice, you enter a trance state, you connect with a certain emotion, maybe fear, maybe something else. Your psyche shows you what this is about in your life, a certain period of your life, right? And during the practice, I help you transform this, release that emotional charge, let go of that program, let go of that conflict. You might cry, your body breathes, and you release it, you experience it, and then you relax. So, in your physical life, you don't have to do anything at all. You do my specific practice 1, 5, 10, 15 times, yes, with a specific request, for example, for the root cause, and your gastrointestinal problems go away. That's it, and you don't need to do anything in real life. But if you do need to do something, you'll most likely want to do it yourself. This is what you need to understand. Or there's a third option, what else could it be? That is, you think that all your problems are because you're a bad girl. But the problem might not be that at all. And that's how our psyche works. It sometimes confuses us like this. So the problem might actually be something completely different. In relationships, at work, I don't know, something else. But I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to sort it out. And my psyche tells me, well, you're just a bad girl, but you don't want to deal with it. So let's just say that's the problem. And you're like, yeah, I don't want to deal with it. So that's the problem. And very often it happens that we kind of know what our problem is, but we can't seem to do anything about it. But the problem isn't that at all. Do you understand what I mean, Victoria? Did any of that resonate with you? Yes, Andre, you need to contact the support service. The girls will talk to you, it's very important. They'll diagnose you, explain everything in detail, select a program for you, and tell you exactly which practices you need to do. Of course, here you need a one-on-one, like tete-a-tete, right? Division. It's a metaphor for my whole life, yes. Exactly, Lyubov said it. Yes, division. Who's dividing what over there? What does this have to do with you? We need to get you out of this division. Ah, here, Vaika is revealing her cards to us. As they say, you don't need to do anything with anyone, just resolve the financial issue, thank God. I'll have to resolve a financial issue with an acquaintance. That is, I understand that he absolutely doesn't want to resolve it, so it'll have to be through conflict. And for me, conflict always hurts. You see, you're giving too little information. What kind of financial issue is it? Is it a financial issue where someone owes you money, or is it something else? Look, sometimes you just have to get off your butt and do something. For example, your situation. For instance, someone owes you money. Let's say someone owes you, I don't know, $100,000. No matter how much you meditate, so to speak. Do you want your money back? Let's be honest. And then, yes, you need to come and say it. Where's my money? Where's my money? Give me my money back. When will I get my money? And this isn't about being a good girl. What's that got to do with it? It's your right to your money, for example. But again, I don't know what your situation is here. So once again, this isn't about being a good girl. You've mixed everything up here. The point is that I'm afraid to ask for what rightfully belongs to me. That's all, Andre. Thank you. Yes, and Andre, once again, this isn't about just one practice. There you need to work through both shame and fear. And you need to work through resentment in detail. We do this in the basics. And you need to go through separation. There's even a specific technique for separation. And you need to nurture your self-esteem. Vaika, did what I said resonate with you? So Anya writes, a year ago I injured my shoulder. Either I tore a tendon by doing something I didn't want to do. Wow. Right in that moment, I realized I was creating a problem for myself. About 2 months ago, adhesive capsulitis appeared. Frozen shoulder, so my arm doesn't lift above shoulder level. And above that, there's pain. Yes, what you're describing now, Anechka, this is a serious problem. And it can't just be... You can't just let it go. It will only get worse. What needs to be done? First, you need to work on your automatic responses on your own. This can be difficult, so I expect to see you at the webinar tomorrow. Plus, after that, at the very least, you need to cover the basics. The basics plus the body system, the musculoskeletal system, you need to address that. I'll explain all of this in detail tomorrow. What do you need to work on? You did something you didn't want to do. You need to figure out here, why am I doing this? Do I do this often? What kind of scenario inside me makes me do things I don't want to do? So here, you really need to dig into a deeper layer. That's one. Plus, you need to work through this situation where it happened and release all the emotions. That's two. Third, you still need to work with the body. You still need to go to a body therapist in your city and work on your arm, because the more it gets encapsulated and the more it gets tense, you really need to bring in the physical aspect 100%. Work with a rehabilitation specialist, maybe get some painkillers, gradually stretch everything out. This is already mechanical work. Psychosomatics alone won't be enough. You need to involve both, and then the progress will be much faster and you'll recover quickly. If you let it go and do absolutely nothing, it will be very hard to deal with later, right? Kinesiotaping works well for this, and really what you need here is just stretching. So you need a rehabilitation specialist for this, right? A good one. Someone who does physical therapy and so on. That's it. Well, you said you did something you didn't want to do. But Anechka, my dear, shoulders aren't just about doing things you didn't want to do. Shoulders are also about our identity. I feel like a bad wife. I feel like a bad spouse, or a bad daughter, or a bad mother, or a bad partner. In other words, it's also about devaluing yourself in your role. That can be part of it, so it's not just about this particular situation. And there's something more serious, something deeper sitting in the shoulder. It's not just that I did something I didn't want to do. And that's also part of it, but you need to look deeper there, you see? Where do your girls sign up? After the broadcast, the girls will go through the chat and send you a link. Yes, and the girls will get in touch with you. You'll fill out a form there and the girls will talk to you and guide you specifically based on your symptoms. Because everyone has different symptoms, right? Alright, let's take a couple more questions. So, here Lilia writes, oh my god, a whole lifetime isn't enough for all this inner work. Maybe there's another way, something more joyful. Why do you think that inner work is a bad thing? Inner work is a joy. Inner work is a pleasure. It's like, there are people who go to the gym and after a workout their muscles grow. It's painful. It comes with soreness. Someone says, oh God, I don't like working out, stretching or anything like that. Everything hurts afterwards. But when you work out regularly, you actually enjoy that pain. Because that pain is your growth. Afterwards, you're more flexible, you're stronger, you feel good. That's why some people, whether they're overweight or skinny, it doesn't matter, are falling apart by 30, while others are still as flexible at 50 as they were at 20. That's a big difference. And what you just wrote, Lilia, that's a defense mechanism. That's how our psyche protects itself, like, oh, there's so much I have to sort out there, forget it, it's not worth it. But that's not true. Every person has 2 or 3 key conflicts. Move those, and your life starts to change. Your health, your outlook, everything changes, and it doesn't take years. You just need to know what to do, where to go, and to go with the right person. So don't devalue this. On the contrary, try to look at it from a different perspective. And when we talk about the joyful aspect, well, I have some specialists who say, why go back to the past? You should focus on the good things here and now. Yes and no. Yes, you shouldn't live in the past. You absolutely should live in the present and the future. But if you don't understand the reason for your reaction, why you feel what you do right now, then you don't know yourself. If you try to put something on yourself without knowing who you are, it won't work. That's exactly why we have a peak in chronic illnesses right now. That's exactly why people keep going in circles. So no, you need to get to know yourself. You need to take an interest in yourself. So tomorrow, when we come to the webinar, I will give you 30 scenarios. Believe me, after these 30 scenarios, you'll know yourself better than if, you went to therapy this month. Why? Because you'll understand a lot about yourself. And on top of that, we'll have practice together and you'll get it. So spend 2 or 3 hours of your time, come tomorrow, get the workbook, get the recording, and rewatch it. And this will be the best investment you can make in your life. So friends, thank you for today's broadcast. And I'll be waiting for you tomorrow. Come join us. And remember, health and happiness are much closer to us than we think. Wishing everyone peace and love. Thank you.